Welcome to the Yeah No Yeah podcast, the sports edition, the transition from the Third Stringers podcast, sports edition. My name is Noah. With me here is Justin.
Let's get it.
All right, so we're going to do this a little differently than we did the Third Stringers podcast. Normally, we'll also have Nick, Josh, either one or both, potentially.
Yep.
We will always be here no matter what, me and Justin. But the other two will come in sporadically to give some thoughts.
Love that.
So, we got a lot to talk about today. We got NFL Week 1 overreactions. We have college football takeaways from a huge week in college football. And we got our picks for this next week. Plus, we got some great final thoughts for you. Let's go. All right, we had a huge week 1 in the NFL. We had the Lions upset the Chiefs. All I'm saying is we kind of predicted it.
It wasn't that big of an upset, you know.
It wasn't that big of an upset. It wasn't as much as hey, the sports book said no.
Yeah, that's
so we had a potential upset with the Eagles. They pulled it out at the end. We had two Achilles injuries that were devastating for their teams. And Aaron Rodgers in the first 4 plays during our last podcast episode, which is actually crazy.
It is. That was crazy breaking news.
We had J.K. Dobbins from the Ravens tear his Achilles. We had a lot in the NFL this week. So we're going to break it down a little differently today. We're actually going to go with our Week 1 overreactions. So big storylines that might affect the entire season. So, Justin, you want to kick it off or you want me to go first?
I'll kick it off. And this might be a stretch, but we're overreacting, you know? Either the Eagles are going to struggle very hard this year. And for those who don't know or didn't listen to the last podcast, I said they were going to be a Super Bowl team. I didn't know if they were going to win, but I thought they were going there. I think they're either going to really struggle this year based off of this performance against the Patriots week 1, or the Patriots are going to have an amazing year, which I would not expect at all. I think they might be a playoff team, and just seeing how the games went this past week, they might be second in the division behind the Dolphins. Which it blew my mind even considering that beforehand, right? But now it's like, they kind of look pretty Mac Jones looked decent, and maybe it's because Tom Brady was in the stands that night, but he did all right. I'm not mad at what he was doing.
So, I like the overreaction play here. It was a little concerning how the Eagles looked. Like we said in our last podcast episode, which was actually from the Third Stringers podcast,
yes.
I actually called the upset there. I called the upset that the Patriots would win just outright. Didn't quite make it there. It was a nice last drive put together by the Patriots. He was very close to catching that ball. He just couldn't get that second toe down. He was a rookie, so it makes sense. College football, 1 foot in.
Yep.
But I think they were destined to struggle coming out of the gates. They lost both coordinators. Their offense didn't look great coming out.
No.
They had a defensive touchdown. If you take that away, they only scored 1 touchdown in the first half then, which isn't great. No. I know the Patriots defense is better than I think people give it credit for, but I think we kind of knew that they were going to come out like this. Now let's see what they do this week when they play the Vikings tonight.
Yes, I think they'll come back swinging. I think who's their starting running back? I can't think of his name. That didn't play this past week.
Well, they've got like 4 of them, but I know which one you're talking about. You're talking about Gainwell?
Yes. No, Gainwell played last week, I thought.
We have Gainwell, Boston Scott, DeAndre Swift. What's the other one?
I don't know. One of them didn't play this past week, and they were saying that he was going to a decent amount. I think having him back will help. I can't remember his name. I don't know who, but they're just getting in the flow of things. I think they're going to do better against Minnesota. I think Minnesota was looking rough in their opener. So, yeah. I don't know. The Eagles look like they're going to struggle. It's weird.
They could struggle for sure. I don't see them struggling tonight. But they might struggle against their own divisional opponents. Let's talk about that.
Yep.
Let's talk about the beatdown that was the Cowboys Sunday night, 40-0.
Who would have thought?
Oh my gosh. The offense didn't even need to play a snap.
Yeah. Yeah,
Two touchdowns by the
I have
defense.
Dak Prescott on my bench for fantasy football, right? And I looked at his line and I was like, honestly, that's a decent showing for what happened that night. He had like 100 yards and that was it. I was like, I'm surprised he got 100 yards because that was despicable what happened.
Oh my gosh. It was just brutal. It was a brutal game to watch. I stopped watching halfway through the second quarter, and apparently it got worse. I didn't think it could get worse. Daniel Jones had no time. Their offensive line looks like it took a step backwards from last year. I think they're going to struggle. I don't know how the AFC is going to do in terms of last year, but I think there's going to be a huge change in the dynamic in the NFC. We had the Vikings making the playoffs last year, the Giants making the playoffs. I don't think either one of them are going to make it this year.
I agree. Yeah, I feel bad for Daniel Jones because I know he struggled his first few seasons. He'd had a decent season last season. And I know there's a lot of people hating on him and didn't think he could do it again. I think he could. It's just he has no time to operate. He was getting clobbered back. I felt so bad for him.
He has no help in terms of offensive skill players other than Saquon, which is remarkable that they didn't want to sign him because he is their only option on offense.
Yep. I feel so bad.
I took a swing on Saquon getting over 20.5 receiving yards, and he got like 12. And I think he was one of the top receivers.
He was. I think he was. I was shocked he got 12. I'm surprised they ended that game. They made it all the way through. I was shocked. I mean,
mercy rule. Rule.
I don't know why they didn't put in backups and start whatever. Credit to the Cowboys defense. They killed it. I don't know if it was just the Cowboys defense is so overpowering, and obviously the weather conditions weren't the best, but man, that was disgusting.
So I don't know if it was during the game, during the actual Sunday Night Football broadcast, or if I saw it on Twitter. I can't remember, but there was a video of Micah Parsons training with a boxer, and just with his hand movements, just getting around people. Oh my gosh, he's fast.
Yeah, he's a great player. He's top 5 defensive player, I think.
He's easily going to be the highest paid defensive player when his contract's up. And he might crack quarterback numbers. He's so good.
Yeah, he's very good. Speaking of cracking quarterbacks, another hot take or overreaction. If the Dolphins can prevent Tua from getting injured this season, they're my new favorites for the Super Bowl. I don't think there's going to be a team that can stop them. I think the only team that is close is the 49ers off of week 1. I think the Cowboys had a great showing on defense, but I just think the Giants are struggling, so that doesn't really count. I really think the 49ers and the Dolphins are top of the Super Bowl charts for me.
Yeah, I had 49ers as my pick to go from the NFC. I didn't expect the Dolphins to come out swinging like that, and their offense, Mike McDaniels is a genius in terms of calling plays. It's amazing because he's a Kyle Shanahan disciple, so it kind of makes sense there, but I didn't expect him to do this well. From what everyone says, Kyle Shanahan's the one that runs his own offense, and that's why his offensive coordinators don't get as much respect as they probably should. But this is a great example of Kyle Shanahan actually coaching and training his own coaches on his coaching staff because it's working in Miami. Yeah,
it really is. And it's crazy when Jalen Waddle would be a first option on any other team, and then you have Tyreek Hill. It's 300 yards. I mean, he didn't have 300 yards, but
he got close. I think it was 240.
Yeah, he was close. And 2 or 3 touchdowns?
2 touchdowns. 2
touchdowns, 250 yards. Pff, that's insane.
Oh my gosh. He is so fast. Their whole team is fast.
Yeah, I love that team. I'm excited to see how they keep playing.
They gotta stay healthy.
Yeah, they have to keep. If they keep Tua in the pocket, right, and protect him as much as they can, and as long as Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill is still in the game, I think they'll be fine.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Let's go on to my first overreaction.
Okay.
The Cowboys one wasn't really. I just wanted to talk about them.
Okay. Fair.
I am very concerned with Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's a good overreaction.
I think he's struggling without Brian Daboll as his offensive coordinator. Clearly, Brian Daboll is a difference maker in terms of speaking with his quarterbacks because Daniel Jones made a huge step last year when Daboll took over for the Giants. And Josh Allen struggled a little bit in terms of turning over the ball. It doesn't look the same without him.
I agree.
And it might be the Madden curse. It might be... I don't know.
I think it's a factor of all of that. I do. And again, weather wasn't great that game, I believe. I don't know if it was...
It was raining that day.
Yeah, I didn't know. Okay, yeah, that's fair. But, yeah, Josh Allen looked rough. I had him for a potential MVP pick up there. I'm taking that away. Overreaction, I'm taking that away. There's no way he bounces back into that conversation. You're right. He needs to clean up the turnovers. And I don't know if they will figure out how to do that. They look lost, and they should have made a huge jump this offseason because they knew that end of last season. So I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, give credit where credit's due. Jets defense is very good.
True.
But the fact that Jordan Whitehead, who was probably I wouldn't even call him their best safety. Their second best safety on the team. He had 3 picks that day, so he knew something. He was reading Josh Allen the whole game.
Yeah.
You get some of those days, but it's not even that. It's just the way that he manages himself during the games. He's very reckless with his body, especially as a quarterback. You can't do that.
Yep.
He's going to get injured. He's going to put the team in jeopardy because he's not going to be out there on the field.
I mean, when he's out there on the field, it didn't look great.
You're not wrong, but he is a gunslinger.
True. No, I still think he's a top tier quarterback. I just think they need to get their act together, and they're not. And I don't know why. Like, end of last season, that was everyone's concern was they need to curb back on the turnovers and just clean up their game. Like, if you have a Bill Belichick coaching this team, I feel like they're a top tier team. Like, he's not going to deal with all this nonsense, and he's going to run the tight ship. And I feel like they're not running that tight ship right now.
See, that's what's crazy though. Their defense is great.
Yeah.
Like, they held... I mean, you're playing against Zach Wilson, but...
Yeah.
I mean, their defense kept them in the game the entire time, even after those turnovers. And they just weren't able to put points on the board.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a brutal season if that continues.
I agree. Speaking
Let's talk about... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, you do it. I think we're going to the same spot.
Talk about another curse. I think New York City
is
cursed. So, Giants get destroyed, and I'm not saying it was a weird weekend, okay? I'm just saying Aaron Rodgers brought out the American flag.
Sheesh.
It's the city. It was the memorial. It's a different atmosphere in New York City, but both New York teams, they lost something big. And it's a little concerning. I'm not worried about the teams overall.
Okay.
I think the Jets are going to be fine.
Okay.
I'm just a little worried that it happened on the same weekend in the same stadium. That's all I'm saying.
I agree that beginning of September is not great for New York. Feel brutal for, those two teams getting destroyed on the 9/11 Memorial Weekend. That's tough. I am on a differing side, though. I'm overreacting to this. I think losing Aaron Rodgers in their current state with Zach Wilson as QB1 is a death blow to this team. Right, everyone thought Jets have a potential deep playoff run this season. I don't think they're making playoffs without Aaron Rodgers.
Really?
I think the defense will keep them in games, but I don't think they're going to outscore many of the teams they play anymore.
So I see it a little differently. I think they're going to go out there and make a quarterback signing or a trade potentially.
Yeah, if that happens, then it's open, But I think as is, they're not a playoff team.
I agree. Zach Wilson can't bring them to the promised land.
Yep.
Especially in the ruthless AFC.
Yep.
You have so many teams that could be potential playoff spots that you could see as potential Super Bowl contenders that might not make playoffs.
Yeah. It's insane. And I feel bad for Zach Wilson he says he's been enjoying Aaron Rodgers being like the big brother quarterback helping him out. I think he needed a full season of him helping him out for him to come in and take the reins from Aaron Rodgers, maybe after he retired or whatever that ended up being. But yeah, Zach Wilson's had a tough start to his career. Let's just say that.
Yeah, that's the I think the understatement.
Yes.
They have to. Here's the thing, right? As soon as they start booing, he's gonna crumble. Yep. So they as a fan base, if they want to make it anywhere without potentially signing a new quarterback, they have to embrace him, and they cannot boo him because he seems like an emotional guy that takes that to heart. And New York City is ruthless when it comes to their sports teams. So they can be brutally honest. A guy from BYU out in the mountains of Utah is not the best. New York City is not the best place for him. Let's just say that.
Yeah, that's tough.
All right, I got one more for you. My overreaction is the Packers cannot miss on drafting a quarterback.
That's a great overreaction. I like that.
They went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers seamlessly. The exit for Brett Favre wasn't great. Something very similar is happening right now between Rodgers and Jordan Love, and it's going seamlessly, apparently, in week one. The Bears, who were the Cinderella team of the NFL, got absolutely blown out.
Yeah, they did.
And crushed. Jordan Love crushed that defense, and Justin Fields looked lost.
Yeah, so I agree that Green Bay is amazing at drafting quarterbacks, right? That is a great take. I think the hype of the Bears this season they were way overhyped. I still put them at the bottom of the league, and I think they're going to be the bottom of the league after that performance. So I still think he needs to prove himself a little bit, but Jordan Love could be the guy for the next however many years.
They just don't miss. They don't miss.
Justin Fields kind of got torn apart. He did look a little lost, but I mean, he had pressure coming in the whole time. He is a running quarterback, so he can make those plays, but he wasn't making the plays. So yeah, that was tough. You're right. They don't miss. I wish the Lions could figure out how to draft like the Green Bay Packers can draft.
Yeah, instead we're training for Jared Goff. Hey, great move. Great move.
I said this years before.
You did.
Matthew Stafford needed to leave, and once that happened, we would be on an upward trajectory. And it kind of happened, so I'm really happy I had that take. We're getting there.
It wasn't. Yeah, I mean, all love to Matt Stafford. Detroit loves him. They've embraced him for so long. It's just it clearly wasn't working.
Exactly. They stuck with him for so long, and I respect that. But also at the same time, when you're 0-16, like things have to change. And I don't know if he was the quarterback that season. I think that may have been like his first season.
I think they drafted him after that. I think it was the response to that 0-16
probably.
season.
But like coming off 0-16, drafting him, right? Not having the most successful seasons after that. They got into a playoffs position. They didn't win. And then Megatron left, and everything kind of just stayed stagnant for 2-3 years. It was time. They should have pulled the trigger earlier, but I'm happy it worked out the way it did.
Yeah, and honestly, it's working out for both teams for that trade.
True.
I mean, Jared Goff is turning into a great quarterback here, and I think he just needed a city to embrace him, and I don't think LA was that after the Super Bowl performance that he put up against the Patriots.
Yep.
But I think it's really working out. They've got the team around him, and Detroit's defense looks great.
They look
coming
solid.
out of the offseason.
I do think that Chiefs game wasn't a true litmus test for this team, right? Missing Travis Kelce and then their wide receivers dropping anything that Pat threw at them was not great. But they did play well, and I'm excited to see going further.
So how I perceive this game is the old Lions would have found a way to lose the game.
Yep.
And I think they turned the page because they were able to still pull off the win, even without Travis Kelce or Chris Jones.
Yep. Yeah, if they took advantage of the opportunity, they got it done. It's a dub. That's all that matters.
They're climbing that mountain. They're drinking the Kool-Aid in Detroit. I'm telling you.
Oh God. You want to take it to the college football?
No. Let's talk about
game of the week.
Game of the week. So Last week we had that Chiefs-Lions game, and it was a great game. It was a great start to the season, right? We're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to go Sunday night football this week. We got the Dolphins at, what's their stadium called?
Gillette Stadium?
Gillette, thank you. Thank you. At Gillette. It's not going to be a cold winter game there, but it's definitely going to be colder than Miami.
True.
Miami's favored by 3.
Which seems low.
It seems a little low, but I think it's because it's at Gillette.
True. Yeah, I can see that. It's going to be a good game. If what happened this past game against the Eagles was actually the Patriots were playing very well and the Eagles weren't just crap in the bed, I think it's going to be a very fun game. A great defense in the Patriots, great play caller, obviously Belichick. He can strategize all day long. And then you got the foot race of the Dolphins wide receivers, and we'll see what happens. I'm excited for it. I think 3 is still a little low. I think the Dolphins are going to win by a touchdown or 2, but it'll be fun.
I think Bill's going to bring the pressure on Tua.
100%.
I don't think Tua felt any pressure, to be honest with you, against the Chargers team. It was a shootout from the start. Their defenses were on their heels the entire game. Both sides, really.
Yeah.
I think Dolphins defense is going to play a lot better this week against a weaker offensive team in the Patriots.
Yep.
Without a lot of star power. And I think the Patriots defense is going to bring the heat. I think they're going to overcome it, the Dolphins, I will say.
Okay.
Tyreek Hill is going to make some plays. Jalen Waddle is going to make some plays. They got a lot of speed. They got too much speed for the Patriots. So I agree with you.
All right, so we both have the Dolphins winning. All right, it'll be a fun game. That's all that matters. Is that Mac Jones performs. If Tom Brady shows up, I think that really helps. You know, they want to know with Tom Brady in the stands. Let's see if that keeps going.
He brings the energy, man.
Yes,
he brings it. All right, let's roll into college. We had the game of the year so far that I called from summertime. Texas beats Bama.
Texas beats Bama.
It was a great win for Texas. Quinn Ewers, he's looking like a Heisman favorite.
He is.
He's looking like one. I'm saying I called it. The 4 teams I picked in the preseason, they're in the top 4, which doesn't bode well for me because there's going to be some movement. We all know it. Yeah. We all know it. Someone's going to lose, and it's going to be heartbreaking for me. But maybe they get back up there, right?
Yep.
Quinn Ewers, 24 for 38, 3 touchdowns against one of the top defenses in college coming into this game, right? There was so much talk about how this defense was going to be, like that 2011 team where they just dominated all of college football with their defense. Yep. It doesn't look like that. They do have a good defense still, but Quinn Ewers pretty much picked them apart.
Yeah, Texas did look great. They're definitely one of the top. Obviously, they're a top 4 team because that's what they're ranked. I believe that Alabama, right? Jalen Milroe was looking rough. He didn't do terrible. He had 2 interceptions, which wasn't great. But what he reminds me of is a Denard Robinson from Michigan. He's more of a running back that can just throw it decently.
You're exactly right.
I don't know why they're going to stick with him. I think they're going to stick with him unless he starts showing more signs of not performing well. He needs to start making better decisions. But they're still a top tier team, right? They're going to be in the hunt the whole season. And Texas just kind of had the stamina / luck with those. I mean, the 2 interceptions, and it wasn't that they were lucky. It's that Jalen Milroe just literally didn't see the defensive play right there. Like, I was watching it, and I was like, the guy's right there. You should see. I don't even know how else to say other than he was obviously right there, and he just kind of threw it to him. For both plays, first quarter and the fourth quarter interceptions. So they kind of just had the luck of that and capitalized off of them, which was obviously good. And then they scored a couple times late in the game because of that, and then put it away. So they're definitely a top-tier team. Texas looks very good. Yeah,
Alabama's offense is concerning. And I think we knew that coming into the season.
Yeah.
We just didn't expect it to look like that. Milroe is a boomer bust play waiting to happen. He can throw the ball. He can sling it downfield. It's not exactly accurate all the time. So he's a little inconsistent. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. He is a running back playing the quarterback position.
Yeah.
They have other options at quarterback, so it's interesting that they went with Milroe, which is also concerning for Alabama's future.
Yep.
They look like a team that might continue to struggle. If they do we potentially see a switch up in quarterbacks where they go with a younger guy to start training him for next season? Maybe.
Yeah, if they lose another game, right, and it's because of quarterback play, I definitely think they need to switch it up. They're going to switch it up.
Yeah, because if they lose another game, very, very unlikely that they make the playoff, right?
Yeah.
No two-loss team has ever made it to the college football playoff. Obviously, that'll change in a few years when it's 12 teams, but as far as the 4-team contention, no team has won with 2 losses. And I don't think this will be the year that will change.
Yeah, and since we're kind of on the topic, I want to skip down to the point below about you bring it up. You say it.
So will this be the first year that an SEC West team doesn't make the playoff? So every single year since it started, Alabama, LSU,
Clemson.
Nope.
Clemson
That's ACC.
Oh, you're right. What am I talking about?
So the SEC West consists of Arkansas, Auburn, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M.
Gotcha.
So we have Texas A&M who made it, we had LSU who made it, and we had Alabama who made it. No other teams from the SEC West have ever made it, but it's just because Alabama has pretty much been in it every single year that they've had one come out of the SEC West.
Yep.
All of the SEC West teams look a little vulnerable this year.
I agree. Although I still think one of them might make it. My bet is still on Alabama. If they win out the rest of the year, and if they do a decent job of winning, right? If they beat the brakes off of some of these teams, with Texas being the only loss, like Texas is a favorite for everyone. It's not that bad of a loss. It's early in the season. I think if they win out and they look better, they have a legitimate shot of making it.
So this is where it gets a little interesting because, so let's say they do win out.
Yeah.
They'll play Georgia in the SEC, probably. They'll probably play Georgia in the SEC championship. So if they win, they absolutely deserve to go. But if they lose that's where it gets a little interesting because then their 2 losses would be against potentially a Texas team that made it to the playoff and Georgia, who's definitely going to make it to the playoff. It gets a little interesting in terms of what the committee needs to decide on.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we talked about this last podcast. They kind of just make it up. They're like, oh, well, they won against good teams and it was early. Like, basically what I gave them the reasoning for, right? They won early lost early against Texas and they lose against Georgia in the final game. Like, we'll give it to them. It's like, there's not really a good way of standardizing this and they could squeak in. I could easily see that.
So it's crazy how far the SEC has fallen in 1 year's time. So in terms of quarterback play, I can't think of a quarterback in the SEC right now that I would take top 10.
Yeah.
So you got Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Quinn Ewers, Jordan Travis. I'm blanking on a couple more. Riley Leonard, J.J. McCarthy, Drew Allar.
Yeah.
I mean, they're great quarterbacks in college right now. Caleb Williams, the big one that I'm obviously missing. None of these come from the SEC. And I think it's because they have a quarterback problem right now. And I really don't see a huge future for the SEC quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think it might be a deeper issue than that. I think it's because they've been dominant for so many years. Players didn't want to go there. I mean, obviously they still have top talent, but right, if you're a quarterback trying to make a name for yourself, do you really want to just be another Alabama quarterback? You know what I mean?
I see you. I see what you mean.
I feel like that might be the issue. I could be making a jump there, but it could be a potential. I don't know.
So the only one that I would even consider it is Georgia's quarterback, Carson Beck. But it's honestly just because it's Georgia and they've killed everybody. Yeah. Or I guess there are only 2 games so far. But again, it's not like it's top competition. And Carson Beck hasn't shown me any signs of being like a huge star.
Yeah.
He's just another Georgia quarterback that can play in the system and has good running backs and good wide receivers to throw to.
Exactly. That's what I think is an issue with the SEC in the whole. Like, you don't want to go to Alabama and be like that, right? He's playing well, but you're like, oh, well, he's just another Georgia quarterback. It's like, that kind of ruins his reputation a little bit.
I see you. I understand what you mean.
That's crazy.
So this is where it gets even more interesting, right? So this whole time, when Oklahoma and Texas originally were the first teams to bail out and switch to a different conference, they were coming in as almost like underdogs to the SEC. Like, you were still going to have Alabama, Georgia, now Tennessee coming in and being like the top dogs in the SEC. I think they come in, Texas and Oklahoma, as the front runners to win the SEC immediately.
It'll be fun.
They have the quarterback, Arch Manning. They have Dylan Gabriel, who's a great quarterback at Oklahoma. And honestly, I can't remember his name. Travis Arnold, that's his name. The backup for Oklahoma might be better than Oklahoma's current quarterback.
Well,
so it's funny, though, because I didn't really realize this until I looked at the stats afterwards. So Oklahoma played Arkansas State the first week, right?
Okay.
Dylan Gabriel played so well that they just absolutely killed them in the first half. It was like 45-0.
Yeah.
His backup comes in, because it's time to give him some reps, prepare him. He played better than Dylan Gabriel did. I think he missed one pass, which is truly remarkable. And now there's all these talks on if Dylan Gabriel messes up one game, they immediately go to Travis Arnold, which is... He puts so much more pressure on him because he beat Arkansas State so bad.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I guess that's good pressure, right? Iron sharpens iron at that point, but I kind of feel bad for him. Plays so well that you get benched for the second half, and your backup plays so well that now he might take the starting spot. That's crazy. I would feel disrespected if that happened, if I was the quarterback, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, man. We still got one more topic to talk about.
Yes, we do.
Drake May didn't have a great game. All right. North Carolina survives a double overtime thriller against Appalachian State, which continues to stay in the news for being a potential upset alert team throughout their entire history in D1 college football.
Since they played football.
Talk about a program that doesn't get the respect it deserves. They've got a good team. They've got a good line. They just play good football. It's scrappy football. They just don't get the recruits. But their coach is great, and they just play really well as an underdog.
Yeah, I mean, okay, there's 2 parts to this. The game, right? I think the last play actually looked like pass interference, so I don't know why they ended it on that. UNC, I mean, it was a good win, right? App State, like you said, has always been like, oh, they're kind of decent this year. They might be good. So for UNC to win, that's good for them, right? They pulled off the win. They got it done. But if UNC wants to be a top team in football, which they're normally not, they need to put these games away way before it gets to double overtime. So that's one thing. Second thing, App State not getting the respect and the recruits and all that. I kind of think it's the name. I think it's their branding.
Maybe it is.
I just don't think players want to go to Appalachian State. Like, that just doesn't sound good.
They just need to call it App State. They need to have a restaurant wherever they're at in North Carolina.
Only serving apps.
I don't even know what city it is.
I have no clue.
Only serve apps at that restaurant, like a bar. You know what? Like in
cool.
like a college bar. It's called App State Apps, right?
Yeah.
It's all appetizers.
You could just call it App State.
Yeah.
Their logo needs to be like a mozzarella stick or.
Yep. Mozzarella stick, pretzel stick. Salsa, chips and salsa.
They really need to rebrand, and that's tough. I mean, like you said, they're not getting the recruits they need. And I don't know how you change that as a program unless you get like a big name coach or like you sign one big name player and then people want to play with him.
It's Deion, right?
Yeah, if you get like a Deion Sanders there, players will come. I guess. I don't know. I don't know what they need to do. I have heard in the past that they're always like in it, but they're never a top tier team.
Yep.
So I feel bad for them. Kind of sucks. But no, I think North Carolina got it done. It didn't look great, and I don't think it should have ended how it ended, to be honest. But whatever.
So I just don't understand Mac Brown as a coach at North Carolina because he comes out, just kills South Carolina with blitzes and different packages to mess Spencer Rattler up. They sacked him 9 times. He comes out, they get, I think, 2 tackles for loss total against Appalachian State. Where'd the blitz go? Where'd the blitz package go? It worked. I'm not saying do it every time, and not as much as you did against South Carolina, because South Carolina's line is bad. But
still throw it in there.
You got to mix it in. It's like he just doesn't care. Didn't really prepare for this game at all.
Maybe that could be it. That could really be it. Like you said, they're underdogs, so maybe they're just thinking, "No, it's guaranteed win. It's fine." And then it almost wasn't.
It's going to be an interesting game next week, and we're going to go right into it. We're actually going to start with that game, college pick'ems. We're going to switch it up a little bit because that was a good transition. We got our picks for this week. Actually, we're going to mix it up even more. We're going to go back to our previous week.
Okay.
Previous week's results, right? I had a healthy 5-0 last week. I started out a little slow, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I started out 4-6 in my first 2 weeks. First 2 weeks.
Yep.
It wasn't great.
But now you're 9-6.
Good. It's 9-6 now. I'm above 500. Let's go.
I am also above 500. I got one wrong with the Texas A&M and Miami. It is what it is. We're moving past that. If I'm going to get one wrong, that's what I'm going to get wrong. I'm happy I picked Texas to cover, but even though I said Alabama to win. But it worked out in my favor. It's fine.
It was. Hey, you expected a closer game. I did too.
Yeah, it's true. All right, we want to move into week 3?
Let's move into week 3. This week, we got Minnesota at number 20, North Carolina. North Carolina is a 6.5-point favorite here. Who you got?
I think I'm going to pick North Carolina. Although I don't trust it, I just don't see how Minnesota is going to top them. So I'm going to pick North Carolina.
All right, we got our first
difference
here. I've got Minnesota covering. I don't have them upsetting. I think if this was at Minnesota, it'd be a closer spread. And I would actually pick Minnesota. But because it's in Chapel Hill, I'm going to end up picking North Carolina as the winner. But I think Minnesota will cover here.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, let's roll into number 7, Penn State.
We have picks from Nick.
Oh, we do. We have Nick's picks as well. Don't worry. He will be here eventually.
Yes, he will.
But he gave us his thoughts on these games.
All right. UNC Minnesota, who's he have?
He's got Minnesota upsetting in this game.
Oh, okay. All right.
He doesn't believe in the Tar Heels. He doesn't believe in Drake May.
Interesting. All right, let's move on. Next one.
All right, number 7, Penn State at Illinois. Penn State is a 15.5-point favorite.
I'm picking Penn State.
I am also picking Penn State. I don't believe in Illinois. I watched the game with Illinois playing Toledo. I'm not saying Toledo is any great team, but they almost beat them.
Yep.
And I think Penn State's one of the best teams in the country. So
yep, I agree. It's gonna be a bloodbath, hopefully, for Penn State, not for Illinois.
I agree. Nick also has Penn State here.
All right.
All right, next we got number 14, LSU at Mississippi State. LSU is a 10-point favorite.
I also have LSU. I think I'm just going to go with the favorites this whole season. I think LSU put up a great fight against FSU, and I think they're one of the top teams, and Mississippi State is not equipped to handle their talent. So I'm going LSU.
I agree. The coach for Mississippi State just doesn't like to throw the ball. They like to run the ball. And that's where LSU is the weakest at in their secondary. Mississippi State will continue to run the ball, and it will not work. LSU wins late here.
All right. All right. What does Nick say?
Nick said LSU is going to kill them.
All righty.
Might drop 50.
Whoa, ayo.
All right, we got number 15, Kansas State, going to Missouri. Kansas State is a 5.5-point favorite.
I think it's going to be close, but I think Kansas State's going to win by a touchdown. So I'm going to have them over.
All right. We're going to go with Nick's pick next, which is Kansas State. He did agree with you.
Okay.
And the reason I switched it up is because I have the Tigers winning this game.
Okay. Hey, it's your pick. It's your record on the line, not mine.
I think they do upset just overall.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be they cover. I think it's that they're just going to actually win the game.
All right. I'm excited to see it.
And finally, we got Coach Prime on game day. We got Colorado State at number 18, Colorado. Coach Prime and his Buffaloes are 23.5-point favorites.
It's the battle in the Rockies. 23.5 is tough. I think they're going to do well. I think they're going to win. But I think Colorado State's going to keep it within 23.5. I think it's going to be a 3-touchdown game.
Okay. All right. I like the underdog pick here.
It is an underdog pick. But I still think Colorado's going to beat them pretty single-handedly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So until I saw the comments from the Colorado State coach about how Dion was raised and about his unprofessionalism.
Whoa. I did not even see this. Okay.
This happened today. Colorado State called Dion out. Okay. He said he talked about how his mother raised him and saying that he's being very unprofessional and disrespectful. So this entire time I did agree with you. I had Colorado State keeping it close. And by close, I mean like 17 points.
Yeah.
But I think after these comments, Dion's going to come out and just destroy this team. He might drop 70.
Okay, I might want to change my pick there. I didn't know about these comments. Yeah, you can't attack Coach Prime personally. I think Colorado's going to take it then. That's my bad. I didn't see those comments. I'm changing my pick.
He might drop 70.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be a good test of, the longevity of this team. Obviously, they came out, made a statement, but can they continue making those statements? This might be another time to shine. Take it personal and go to town on Colorado State.
Yep, I agree.
All right,
you can't disrespect Grandma Prime. Oh my God. Nick also has Colorado here.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, those comments switched me up. I'm going to be upset when that hurts my record, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. I'm going to stick with it because you don't attack a man's mom like that. Come on.
All right. You want to actually, I got one more thing for you. I got my own personal locks here. Nick also partook in this.
Okay.
Because he wanted me to make sure he told the fans out there that the Illinois-Penn State game is a lock to go under.
Oh, alrighty.
A lock.
All right, so fans, did you hear that? Put some money on it, and if you lose, charge Nick.
My locks of the week, I got Tennessee -6.5 at Florida. I watched that Florida game week 1. Graham Mertz is not a good quarterback. And Tennessee is going to, I think, put Florida in the dirt. Put Florida in the swamp.
Hey, that's where they're from. They like that.
I also have Washington State -16.5 over Michigan State. I'm sorry, just regular Washington, not Washington State.
Okay, Washington. All right.
Yeah, Michael Penix is going to drop a lot on Michigan State. They have their own, personal issues going on right now with coaching, and I don't think they're going to be ready for Washington.
All right, that's exciting. So yeah, fans out there, if you're betting, take those locks for what they are, as locks from Noah and Nick, and let's see what happens.
All right, let's move into final thoughts.
All right, let's do it. You want to go first? Actually,
I'll go first. Oh,
you said it's a question, so we'll talk about the question more, I think. So let's start with mine.
All right.
The NBA came out with a new policy, I guess, addressing the players' resting issue. And for those who haven't seen it or heard about it, I don't know if you have, this year there's going to be 2 changes to it. One, the league can now penalize teams if they don't manage their roster to where only one star player is unavailable per game at most. So they can sit one star player, but they can't sit two.
Mm-hmm.
And what is deemed a star player is any player that's been an all-star or been on an all-NBA team in any of the prior 3 seasons, which applies to about 50 players this coming season. If they violate that, they are fined $100,000 for the first offense, $250,000 for the second offense, and after any violation after that increases by $1 million. So you got two freebies, and then it jumps. You know, like if you really need to rest a couple players, $100,000, fine. $250,000, okay. You don't want to do that again. $100,000 or what? $1,250,000? Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're not doing that anymore. And then the second part of this policy change is that the league will allow teams to submit written requests in advance for any older players to sit out in back-to-back games. So it's for any star. Again, this is only applying for the stars because of the part 1 of the rule, right? It's for stars who are either 35 years or older at the start of the season, or if they've played in 34,000 regular season minutes or 1,000 career games. And I know that LeBron, KD, and Steph all fit into that category.
So this is interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because what are they going to consider as resting, right?
I think sitting a game.
Like sitting a full game.
I guess I don't know. I didn't read what their definition was, but you're right. They could kind of get around that.
Yeah, so like how many minutes do you have to play? You know what I mean?
I don't know. Yeah. I'm sure they have it written down somewhere, a definition of that, but
I'm sure they do.
I'm
sure they do.
That.
I have not seen it come out yet, though.
Interesting.
I wonder if do they have it like worked out completely? Was this voted on already?
It was voted on. This will be in effect.
Okay.
So it has to be completely worked out, right?
Okay. They have to have it written down somewhere.
Yeah, without seeing what they came up with, personal thoughts, you have to play at least half a game.
Okay.
That's my take on it. I feel like that's if you play 51% of a game, you've played that game, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my thought.
Yeah, I just feel like this is going to be really hard to kind of like run, if you know what I mean. I do like the drastic jump because, if you really need to rest, like it's the end of the season, right? You're getting ready for the playoffs. You want to rest your star players. You eat that $350,000, right?
Yeah.
For the NBA, it's not that much. Let's just be honest. But once it hits that,
$1 million,
yeah,
$1 million, $2 million, and it goes up consecutively $1 million each time.
Yeah.
So you do it 4 times, you're paying $4 million. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a huge hit.
Yeah.
I like the thought. I like the idea. I think they're going to need to make changes to it, and I think this is just going to be like a little trial run this year.
For sure. Yep, I agree. It's
so
not enough to completely stop it, right? They could rest their star player every game, right? It's just you can't rest both of them if you have to. So
was this a direct shot at Kawhi and Paul George?
I think it was. I truly believe it is. Them and then LeBron and AD. Like you either have to be on the injury list or you have to be playing. Like you can't be doing this. And Adam Silver made the comments like this is an 82 game season. Let's make it an 82 game season. We're not here to play 70 and then rest the last 10. Right. Or whatever it turns out to be. And I agree with that. I think it's a good start. They're definitely going to have to make changes, and I don't think it's going to completely stop the issue. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because, if you look at the other teams, there's obviously a bunch of players, like single players, that do this across the league, right?
100%.
And I get that. I understand it. I don't completely support it, but I understand why they do it. But, like, if you look at the Warriors really don't do it. Curry plays all the games.
Yep.
It just feels like a direct shot at Kawhi and Paul George.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, it makes sense that they want to do it like this, right? You go to a Clippers game and the 2 main players aren't playing. It's like, I feel bad for the fans, right?
For sure.
Yeah. It's a good start. That's all I can say on that.
It is a good start.
All right, what's your question?
My question is, so we just saw last week, we saw Burrow have a rough outing against the Cleveland Browns. Had less than 100 yards passing, which I don't think we've seen in a Joe Burrow-led game where he didn't get injured.
I don't think so. I think this was the worst game he's ever had, besides injury, yeah.
Yeah, so this bodes the question. Do the Cleveland Browns, who have beaten him 5 out of 6 times, just have his number? Or is it that Burrow just doesn't play well week 1? Because last year we saw him throw 4 picks against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's true.
And this year he dropped 3 points and like 92 yards. So which one do you think it's more realistic?
So here's the thing. The Browns won the game because their team was playing better than the Bengals. Obviously, Joe Burrow did not help in that scenario. I do think Joe Burrow really struggles in week 1s. I don't know how much he plays in the offseason. I'm sure he's there getting reps and stuff, but he's not not fully committing. I think he needs to start doing that this next season, especially after getting paid. But I think the Browns just kind of have the Bengals' number. I think they're just dominating the Battle of Ohio, and they're going to continue doing that as long as they have a decent team. They were winning with Baker, so obviously Joe Burrow is just coming into his own, but the Browns are kind of on top. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this next season whenever they end up playing again. If Joe Burrow can figure out how to start off a season well. But in my opinion, I think the Browns just have the Bengals number.
Okay. Obviously, it's not, like a complete vacuum. He's had 2 injuries coming into this season. His first year was his rookie year, so how much do you really count from that?
True.
But it's an interesting question because does this start getting in his head now that he's not good week 1?
I did see after that game he went and got a haircut.
he had to change it up. He had to change it up.
Needed to. So maybe it's the hair. Who knows? I think it does. I think it does get into his head. I truly believe that.
Maybe that's why the Madden curse exists.
True.
Hopefully Joe Burrow is not on the cover of Madden next year, going into the season, playing the Browns again.
Yep.
Then what do you do?
Yeah. I think a lot of players struggle with the outside noise. I don't think there's many NFL players that don't get affected by, obviously, a bunch of fan chatters, whatever, right? But major media outlets, ESPN, saying, "Oh, Joe Burrow's or Josh Allen's with the Madden curse," that's got to affect you at some level, and I think it does affect him. So, yeah, hopefully Joe Burrow's not on the cover and he can start one season off well. But last year he started off poorly and they were an amazing team. So maybe it's just a pattern that they have to continue to fight through. We'll see what happens.
All I'm saying is, next year, if Burrow's on my fantasy team, I'm not starting him week 1.
Don't start him first week. But maybe you need to because he's going to prove to everyone that he can come out swinging.
Maybe, but I got to see it first.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
All right. That's all we got for you this week. Next week, we got more college games. Probably the biggest college football weekend of the year next week. We'll give you the preview for it. And, of course, we got more NFL. NBA's coming up soon. It's a great time to be a sports fan.
Let's get it. Thank you for listening. Yeah, if you like the podcast, make sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, where you're listening. Like us. Give us a review. There will be a poll. Give an answer to that. There's a short answer if you want to answer that. And, yeah, give us a follow if you like it. And we will be back next week.
All right. See ya.
Peace.